And ask questions. We have a lot of people on Zoom, so we might be kind of stopping a little to ask them. So the panel we have today is for Black History Month. As you all know, it's time for celebration, and we did this in collaboration with Balsa. So I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yes. Hi, my name is Claire Malone, and I will be moderating this panel. I'm the president of BOLSA, and then I'm joined here by...
I'm Amber. I'm the treasurer of BOLSA. And I'm Oprah, the secretary.
Great. And so then on this side, we have the NLG, we have Corinne, wonderful outreach, and then our 1L reps. And then this is also in collaboration with the Death Penalty Action, which Allie is leading.
I'm Death Penalty Action's communication coordinator. We're a national anti-death penalty organization. I'm the only person with DPA that's on the West Coast, but we do work primarily in the South and death penalty heavy states. But we go around the country and shine a spotlight on executions.
And today we are going to be hearing from Mr. Lamont Hunt and Mr. Hunter and Mr. Charles Keith. And Claire will share a little bit about their bios.
Yes. Hi, Lamont. Hi, Charles. Nice to see you again. I was talking to you last week, and it's nice to see you. Would you like to start?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
The screen keeps switching between, hold on. Sorry, give me half a second. 1 second, sorry.
So Charles, if you want to start your video.
Charles, can you turn your camera on?
He's on.
I believe I just did.
And just stay muted until we call on you guys.
Great. Lamont. Oh.
Unable to hear.
You can't hear us. Is that better?
No, we're not hearing you.
Okay, great. Lamont, would you like to share your bio and what brings you here today?
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, story is one of it goes back a while. It goes back a ways to 2006. At home, going about my everyday routine, you know, basically, and a tragic accident happened, unfortunately, with my stepson, my girlfriend's son, and he fell down a flight of steps and just was unconscious and never regained conscious back, and so when I called his mom and we called the ambulance or whatever, the paramedics, and they took him to the hospital. I'm trying to make a long story short. So they charged me 2 days later with aggravated murder and rape. That went. I stayed in the county jail for like 21 months. Nobody was hearing me. Nobody. I told everybody what happened. The authorities, the hospital, everybody what happened. They didn't want to believe me, so they tried me, convicted me, and sentenced me to death wrongfully. And I spent 17 and a half years charged and convicted with that. So I got out. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit now. In June of 2023, last year, June 15th, Aaron's birthday, I was released. The authorities, the prosecutor offered me a plea, and I accepted it, and I got out on the June 15th, 2023. So, yeah, wrongfully convicted.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being here today and sharing more about your story. Charles, would you like to share your bio and what brings you here today?
Yes. I had a brother that was convicted back in 1994 for a violent crime that he did not commit. The thing surrounding this particular crime was that it had an agenda attached to it, in which then President Clinton flew into London, Ohio, to promote his crime bill. And he did his crime bill speech in London, Ohio, and he mentioned the Bucyrus murders several times. At the time that he was mentioning those Bucyrus murders, my brother had already been accused of those crimes before they had even checked any evidence. But with that presidential influence, nobody wanted to make a mistake. So they had to make sure and ensure that my brother was convicted. So, long story short, as we go, it's taken me down through the criminal justice system and so many things that I have seen, so many things that I've experienced, as a layman or a poor person. And, it's shocking to know that we are connected to the American system, but only on the punishment side. There's no problem whatsoever that we need to do if it involves the poor. So, that's where I come from. That's what has strengthened me all these years. I am that poor person. And the very things that have happened to others could have and probably still could happen to me. So, I'm very much aware of what's going on. And, with this death penalty, I was telling a friend of mine, if these guys are not prisoners of war, then why are they killing them? That's what brings me here.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you for being here as well.
Thank
So
you.
today we are going to dig into topics of how law students can better advocate for their clients, family in the fight for criminal justice, the importance of coordinated fights, and roles and standards of proof hiding the proof. So to get started, how do you see an ethical lawyer?
Are you asking me that question?
Oh, both of you, but you can start.
An ethical lawyer, we would have, to me, that word should take you to justice, because there's certain things that, you always hear about bending the law and how far the law will bend, before you got people now actually cracking it. And I think with that lawyer having ethics, there's a lot of human quality that goes with you. And I think a lot of that stuff gets pushed under the rug when it comes down to the death penalty. And I think that's why we have so many people across our country now screaming, hey, I'm innocent, and you don't have the evidence to show that I'm guilty. But yet and still, we have our criminal justice system, the attorneys, the judges, the everybody. That's all a part of this. And I think they're preying on the poor. So that
Unmute
would,
yourself, Lamont.
I think advocacy, connecting with like Brother Charles just said, on a human level with your client is very, very important. And just listening, hearing your client, and whatever in whatever sense, guilty, innocent, or whatever, it's you are able to. I think this is my thoughts on how an attorney will better advocate for their client is just connecting with them and listening to them. So that's missing in a lot of places nowadays in this judicial system that we are under.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what would you want future lawyers interested in criminal law to know about your experience in the criminal system and want to know about best supporting their clients as well?
Oh,
I'll go.
so go ahead, Charles.
I was just going to say, from my experience, not being incarcerated and fighting for my brother, I like that word advocacy. And I think attorneys should learn how to work with the social media, because that social media is out there killing you too, so they can take that media and actually assassinate you before they even get to you. So I think attorneys need to become friendly with the journalist. I think they need to understand how to utilize the media to their clients' best interest, because it becomes a sideshow. That's exactly what it is, an American sideshow. And you've got so many people viewing that. So I think with the attorneys understanding the importance of social media, especially in today's world, and how it affects their client, because most of the time your emotions and everything, it's always going to be in the courts, and nobody's going to get a chance to hear anything or see anything, no more than what the journalist or the media puts out there. So, I think the lawyers sometimes need to put something out there favorable to their clients. I think the attorneys sometimes need to say something nice, or, give somebody a different aspect of what's going on with your client. You can't be hush mouth when the social media is out here actually killing your client also.
Absolutely. That was a, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. That was a very useful tool against me, the media. The media, they portrayed me and depicted me as this monster, and just they used the media, the newspapers to release articles, front page articles, just to assassinate my character. So, there's ways that you, as an attorney, can use that tool as well to advocate for your client and put your client in the best light possible. So social media is huge now. Like I agree with Charles. So yeah, absolutely.
I remember in our past conversation that talking about connecting stories, possibly through media, could be helpful towards fighting against corruption. How do you think that we could connect stories and best hold those in charge accountable?
You said, say that again?
How do we connect these stories and best hold those in charge accountable?
Oh man. The holding those in charge accountable is an uphill battle. Because of I learned going through my process, and when I was considering taking the plea agreement to gain my freedom, I learned in that process that there is this dark cloud called absolute immunity that these people who are in charge, the prosecutors and DAs across this country, are protected by. So it's hard to hold them accountable. So it's an uphill battle, and a lot of I think a bright light need to be shined on that and brought attention to that across this country.
Charles, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, yes. I've learned that I'm talking to diverse groups, but mainly the educated and then the poorly educated, because the poorly educated are more than likely to become the victims. So, I've learned to be able to address both audiences, in my concerns. Everybody that I've learned has the value of a vote. So, we have to be aware of who we're voting in. We have to pay attention. We have to unite. The things that I saw happen to my brother, again, I'm not that person that did 15, 20, 30 years. I am that family member. Our family has been victimized. And the thing that astonished me is most how it's ruined my life. And, and out of love for another one and seeing what they're being tortured and what they're being, carried through, especially when you've proven a person's innocence. And that's what makes it so hard. I've seen guys that are guilty and, you're asking for mercy, but what are we doing with that innocent? And people knowing that this guy is innocent, but yet he continues to sit there. And I think there has to be other avenues. There's got to be ways to get an innocent person out of prison instead of just letting them sit there their whole entire life and ruining their entire family. I get the system, but there's no compassion in that system. And it takes me back to that story about the governor who was burning all the witches. And I always laugh about that. It says it took somebody to accuse his wife before he would stop burning them. Is that what's going to happen here? Somebody's going to have a governor's son or relative or something on death row, and then they're going to have to take a look at that. Is that what it's going to take? Again, I'm on the outside looking in. I'm that layman. I'm that poor person. I'm that family member, and we're out here fighting with money, with, fighting the very people that we've entrusted with our lives.
Absolutely. And in thinking about innocence, how do standards of proof affect innocence?
Wow. Standards of proof. That's well, like I just mentioned, no one was listening to me. The truth is the truth, regardless of who wants to listen, who wants to hear it, and who wants to believe it. So the standard in certain jurisdictions across this country changes with wherever it's geographical, is wherever you are, the burden is higher or lower. It just depends. So they're making it in the judicial system. Truth very, very rarely gets a audience in our judicial system.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lamont. When you're looking at a prosecutor, and he can tell a story and he can convince the jury that you did it, not show evidence, not show DNA, not show that you did it. Our system, as I learned it, this is where there's doubt, you should be out. They'd have thrown out, they didn't throw the word doubt out. Now you're convicted and you have to prove your way out. How do I do that? How do I prove my way out when you told a lie to get me in here? And that has become the most powerful thing in our legal system today, the lie. That has so many careers tied up over so many years because everybody has to keep on telling and backing up that lie, because the truth would actually set a lot of people free. But in our legal system, they deny your emotions. They deny to hear it. So each time they say deny, they're denying you at opportunity at the truth, so that this person can find some type of relief, come home to his family, show that he did not do this. That's pure torture. And here we are in our country, and people having control over your lives in that system, and they just let you just rot, just sit there. And then you might not come back into focus for 25, 30 years. Like Melissa Lucio. 25, 30 years ago. Now she's innocent. She was innocent then. And you guys knew it. She was innocent then. When you hear a person screaming, I'm innocent and I didn't do it, they were innocent then. It doesn't take 25 years for them to be innocent. Their stories never changed. It's just that we have a system of people that don't want to hear it. And then we have other people that are afraid to say anything to make them accountable to allow that stuff to continue. And now I'm talking about the church. I think the church has a duty and has a responsibility to keep most of our elected officials in place. You know, we held these people reverend, especially our pastors. We hold the church somewhat sacred. So, you know, I found myself fighting the criminal justice system. The only thing I had to use was the church. There's nothing else left. I couldn't fight the criminal justice system with the street people because they were the criminals per se. So I had to understand the church, and I had to come back. And how do I reach the compassion in these leaders here? How do I find out if they got a heart? I had to come through the church and so many different forms of religion just to find out if people had a heart. And that has been my best tool in fighting the death penalty, has been religion and religious beliefs.
I see. I see. And a lot of these judges are making these decisions about unjust sentences. And how could we change judges making decisions for what the jury is going to say, or for replacing the importance of a jury?
Oh man. So like I just mentioned a minute ago, how the prosecutor has the media as a tool that they use that weaponize against you. So you are in this tainting the jury pool. The jury pool's tainted by the time they are selected and chosen to sit on the jury. They've seen the media, so they have their biases and opinions already thought in their minds. So and me and Aaron, my attorney Aaron Barnhart, we had a conversation. She talks about how these judges, unfortunately, they are elected, so they have to campaign. They have politics, all in the midst of their duties, and going about their duties. We are appointed these attorneys because, like Mr. Charles just said, poor people are the targets of the judicial system. So we can't afford representation, if that's what you want to call it. So we're appointed these attorneys by the judge, who these attorneys has donated to their campaigns to help them win their seat. So they're not going to fight for their client and upset the apple cart in this judge's courtroom. So it's a cesspool of politics. Is unnecessary in the judicial system. So it gets ugly. It gets ugly.
You know, that's like the 1994 crime bill. They say that they raised the bar. The bar was already extremely high, exceedingly high. You know, for a death row inmate to get off death row, you would have to need DNA, or you would need a witness to retract. And those were the avenues and paths for them to get out. Now the bar has been raised so high, as they told my brother, more than likely several jurors would have found doubt in his case, especially if the Brady material had been introduced. So there's already Brady violations. But what he cannot prove is that all 13, which means the 12 and the alternate, he can't prove that all 13 jurors would have found him innocent or not guilty. Well, our legal system doesn't require us to have all 13 jurors to say that he's innocent or not guilty is the word. So you've set a bar up so that this man will never reach it, because nobody ever can say, I guarantee you I can get all 13 to find me not guilty. Nobody can say that. But this is the bar that they've set for poor people, you know, especially if you've ever done anything else in your life. You know, you're not coming into a legal system squeaky clean. I think my brother one time snatched a purse. He went from snatching a purse where he did 6-8 months to death row. They use that purse snatching as if he beat the lady up, stomped. I mean, the way they could describe it, you would think that snatching a simple purse was heinous. But it wasn't. They could take any little thing, the media, the prosecutor. These guys has like been given permission to lie. And they've raised the bar so high that it's burning lawyers out. It's causing rift between lawyers and clients. I mean, it's really causing a rift. It's causing mistrust and distrust through the criminal justice system, because they've raised that bar and they're telling you and they're laughing. I understand what you're saying, but you're not going to jump this hurdle. And for Kevin Keith, proving that my brother's innocent, and I've done it every way possible, for them to throw this very last hurdle at us. Sorry, but we've raised the bar and the standards so high that we don't think you can reach it. How? So how do I get my brother out, knowing that I cannot prove that all 13 jurors would have found him not guilty? I can't prove that. And they know that. So this is why they continue to hold Kevin Keith with a standard that I cannot fight.
There's so much corruption in the criminal justice system that you both just spoke on. I have two questions about this. First, what changes do you think could be made to limit bias in jurors and to limit bias in jury selection?
I like to take that one.
Go ahead.
I'll take that one first. First of all, you think you're getting honest people. That's the whole ploy and play on it. You're getting a few religious people. I mean, everybody wants to come in and they want to do the best they can for their city or their community. It's your civic duty. That's really pushed on you. But what the jury is not understanding is you're attached to the criminal justice system. And after they've used you the way they want to use you, you're detached. So you're not going to be that juror forever and a day, but that's going to be the same criminal justice system. So they just used you to get that conviction. And once convicted, you don't need a jury anymore because this guy's probably never going to get out. And that's what jurors have to understand, that they're being manipulated. They're being lied to, and we're allowing it to happen as a society. As our church says, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not bear false witness. I mean, all these thous, but yet still we sit back and allow those thous to happen. And then we question ourselves, what can we do? What can we do? How about if we stop this stuff? How about if we stop the thou shalt not kill? How about we stop the thou shalt not bear false witnesses? If we're taught this as a child and then we come to it as an adult and then we insert that into our criminal justice system to get a conviction for a poor man that we know that cannot afford good representation, they'll never get out. And that's what we're here talking about today, the Black experience in the criminal justice system.
Absolutely. I totally agree with Charles there. The judicial system, judges are allowing these prosecutors to manipulate in the courtroom. And they are actually conspiring, in my opinion, to do so. They are denying motions where they know motion you've reached the bar to prove that your motion need to be granted, and also lying to the jury, just lying, basically, period, just manipulating the jury instructions or whatever, instructing them, or that they're lay persons. They're not legal professionals like the attorneys are in the courtroom or the judge is. So it's easy to manipulate a lay person with legal language. So that's it's hard to say. It's hard to say.
I have to come back because I don't like using racism in the criminal justice system. I don't like using that.
It's the truth.
It actually opens up my eyes, and to know that the biases that some of the people have sitting on that jury, you have to be for the death penalty in order to sit on a death penalty jury. So
Exactly.
your goose is about to be cooked. And then you're sitting down there, and I hate to say it's a Black man because I've seen white guys executed also. So I'm going to have to go in today's world. Back in the day, I mean, maybe, but today I've got to go with Black man, white man. I'm looking at the poor. I'm looking at the poor, and I'm looking at the impoverished. See, I'm seeing something in our country that I've never seen before. And I've seen white guys getting executed. I always seen the Black man being lynched. Everything's happening to the Black man. I've seen all of that, but I've seen sacrifices. And to me, it seems like you're willing to hurt the poor whites just so you can get to the Blacks.
Absolutely.
Or why kill? Why kill?
Absolutely.
So we want to prove that our system's not racist. So we've got some sacrificial white people. How about we kill a few of those? And then we're going to get to you, buddy. Or why kill? Why kill? I've gone to some executions where they're executing white men, and there was little to nobody there. Little to nobody there. And I was like, oh my God, nobody's coming out crying for this guy. But you get a Black man, there's the church, the pastor, the NAACP, ACLU, the ABCD, and everybody. And they're still not hearing all these groups that come out for this black man, because those groups are not coming out for that white guy. So, you know, you're on death row 9 times out of 10, you're going to be executed if you're white. And if you're black, okay, here we go. Now it's racist. The whole damn thing is racist, whether you're black or white, whether you're sacrificing him to get to me. The whole thing is racist.
Absolutely. So what do you want future prosecutors to know in this process?
Oh, first of all, I'm gonna go back to my point I just made. It need to be a huge light shined on the absolute immunity that they're shielded by. They're protected by absolute immunity. So that is itself an opportunity for them to for malfeasance, or just do wrong to people. So they need to know that hiding evidence, intentionally, maliciously prosecuting people in this country, sending them to death row for no reason at all, the over zealousness of their duties need to be. So I'll shine a light on that. Absolute immunity needs to be wiped out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also think that the value of life, whether you're giving a guy what they call the push schmuck, you're giving this guy life without parole. And I'm sitting here thinking about all the young men that faced the death penalty that were afraid to go through it because they knew they were going to be found guilty, and they bargained to get life without parole. Now they're stuck. Now we got a criminal justice system that knew that. Now you've got all these young men stuck in the prison system because you plea bargained. I mean, the guy was trying to save his life. Now there's a whole group of people, not just these guys on death row, but these guys that, bargain for life without parole. Everybody wants to live, and this guy's innocent, but yet he can't make any claims of innocence. He can't say anything anymore because you took the bargain of life without parole. Why can't he say, I'm innocent? Why can't he say, I was afraid to face the death penalty? I would say I was afraid to face it. So why can't he say that? You want an 18, 19, 20-year-old to make that big man decision to face death with your chest stuck out. This is not one of those chest stick out situations. This is not that. This is not that man up, take your medicine. This is pure judicial murder. And the very things that we're doing, we would not want that to be done to us or our loved ones. And that's why it's preying on the poor. That's what I want those prosecutors to understand. We're Americans too. We live in this country too. We go to American schools. We work American jobs. We live the American way. We're not your prey for your ladder to success. There's so many other ways. You don't have to kill us. You're already locking us up. The prisons are full of us. But when you're starting to take our lives, when you're starting to kill, and then you're saying we're doing this in the name of the people, I think you've gone too far.
Right. And now shifting the conversation to family, how has unjust imprisonment and sentences affected your families?
Oh man. Sure. The death sentence that I was under, it traumatized me, not only me, my entire family. The trauma that was inflicted by the judicial system upon me had ripple effects that rippled out to my mother, my father, my grandmother, my siblings, my children. So it traumatizes us all because I come from a good family, and they're not going to just abandon me. So they was there with me on death row all the way, 100%. They supported visits, phone calls, money to feed me, the whole nine. It's absolutely traumatizing to the whole family.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
I'd actually have to say my family was the exact opposite. We didn't have a lot of older people in the family. We were a very young family down in basically an all white community. And the minute they said guilty and Kevin was convicted, our family basically wrote him off from there. You know, Kevin had died to us that day. For what could we do? I mean, all our hopes and everything was right there in that verdict. And when they said guilty, a piece of us, we all died. And we all knew that we were helpless. So as they took Kevin away, like they did back in the olden days, how do you step out there to stop a lynching? Next thing you know, you're lynched too. So we're all afraid. We're afraid to step out. We're afraid to speak up, say anything. Out of reprisal, they might get another one of us. Where did that concept come from? How do you have to think in fear when here you are, an American? So when they paraded Kevin off, that was it. And the whole thing has been a crazy journey of how a poor family, especially myself, I was in college. I was a psychology pre-law major back in 94. I have not had the opportunity to go back to school, nor is that my desire anymore, because as an American citizen, I've had lies shoved down my throat through our legal system. So now what I'm teaching, I'm trying to teach my children how to protect themselves, how to act when arrested, how to work, handle themselves in the criminal justice system, because it's very un-American of what they are doing to you when you want me to teach my children that they're American, and then on this side you want to treat them so un-American. And I'm lost because I used to feel American until I saw all the things that was happening with my brother. And when they spared his life back in 2010, then Governor Ted Strickland, I said, maybe America's waking up. Maybe America's waking up. So why didn't they execute him in 2010 if he was guilty? So here I am 16 years later fighting life without parole. Story has not changed. He's still innocent. So how do I get him out? So we done got him off death row. Now I'm fighting life without parole. I mean, what do I got to do next? I have no idea because I'm not an attorney. And the attorneys, they said, well, get a better attorney. What do you mean get a better attorney? This judge is denying to hear those motions. So what do I need? A gangster attorney? Some gangster that you better hear these motions? I'm sorry, I can't produce that. So I can't sit there and lay fault on these attorneys when the judges are failing to hear these motions and you're burning the attorneys out. But that's my take. You ruined my life for 30 some years. Our family's falling apart. Everybody blames everybody. Every time Kevin's birthday or an event comes up, everybody blames everybody because nobody knows what to do. He calls home. Nobody wants to answer the phone. I go, oh my God, that's Kev. What do you say? Hey, how are you, man? How's it going? That's hard talking to a person who has both feet in the graveyard. He just hasn't been buried yet. So yeah, they've totally destroyed and traumatized our family. They basically killed my mom, and we're talking about an innocent man. So, I don't know what the family of that guilty person may go through because we have not had to go through that or deal with that piece. Ours has always been from an innocent perspective. And for that, and for 30 years, and this guy continues to put motions in the court, even at the highest level, it continues to get denied. So you tell me as an attorney, how do you get out an innocent man in our legal system?
Yeah.
This is the last question I have for the two of you before we move to Q&A from the audience. So how can families and society move past seeing incarcerated people as a burden? How can this change?
Oh man, that is the penal system. People that are incarcerated, the jails, the prisons, they are preying on our family members, on people who love their loved ones, who's incarcerated, and they overprice for food, they overprice for clothes, they overprice for visitation. They prey on family members. So it's become a business in this country. And the business is a conglomerate at this point, and it's hard to fight against that to help people's loved ones, incarcerated loved ones. They're just victimized. So it's a whole.
Yeah.
This didn't just happen overnight, so it's not going to change overnight. It's going to have to stay. Fight. You have to fight against it constantly.
Pseudo slavery.
Absolutely.
You know, my brother, I mean, we hear, you know, how when the phone rings and it comes across the TV, everybody's pointing. That's Kevin calling. Nobody really wants to answer that phone. Oh my God, what could he possibly want? And you know, it's money. They prey up on you. You got to give money that you don't have because you love your loved one. You got to sacrifice a light bill, a gas bill. You have to sacrifice so many things to show your loved one that you love them because they're there all by themselves. You know,
Right.
you don't get to see them as often. And now we're getting back to transportation. How many of those poor people have a nice car? You know, we don't have in poor communities lawyers, doctors, businessmen. We don't have those professionals. You know, it's funny to say, but we're the people that have the prostitutes, the drug dealers, the drug addicts. You know, so ask what you guys call inmates. That's who we are being viewed as. You know, we're never looked upon as American citizens. We're the poor, and they prey upon us in any way possible that you can think of. So to get us in prison and charge you for almost everything and have your family sending in money all the time, they get you on a rhythm of eating. And the last thing you want to show anybody when you're in prison is that you're that poor, that your family won't even send you a dime in there. Man, there's going to be some things probably happen to you. You know, you've been totally cut off from your family. So that money, so you know, it shows that there's still a connection. It shows there's still love, even if you don't get down there yourself to see them. Man, you just need that money to come in. You know, I need to get to the store. I still got to feel human. I got to feel that part of the economy. I got to spend some money. I'm still alive. I'm a man. I'm a woman, and that's what our system doesn't have that type of compassion. You know, I just that just takes me. That compassion piece, is it that damn hard to have compassion for somebody? Wow.
Absolutely. Now we are going to take questions from the audience, either in person or on Zoom. If someone has a question in the room, you might need to move a little bit closer to the mic to ask it, if you are able. And for the webinar, if you just ask it in the Q&A section, I can read it out for our panelists here.
There's also some in the Q&A.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, I am seeing a few in Q&A. So first, what do you think the best way to avoid tainted jurors is?
Can I take that? I've always thought that you're bringing in, especially with a person's life. Most people in a jury doesn't understand crime, nor have they read the criminal justice handbook or anything to do with the law. But yet you're the person sitting here making judgment on someone else. I think they need to be law students, such as yourselves. I think the jury should be comprised of at least 6 law students, because that's usually the position most lawyers never get a chance to sit at in our criminal justice system, is the jury piece. And then, you know, being made up from other people in the community. And what you want to do with that 13th, that alternate, I don't know, but I do think that six people from the law schools, any neighboring law school, whatever it is, especially on capital cases, I think they should be there. And that way they understand some of the terminology. They'll see some of the underhandedness and shenanigans that these prosecutors are doing, because we don't understand the language. Half the trial goes through and the jury doesn't even understand half those legal terms or what's even going on in the jury process. You're sitting there like a jury of stooges, you know, and then they're afraid to say not guilty because, hey, had to have something. So they say guilty. And now your hayride begins.
Yeah, absolutely, Charles. You hit the nail right on the head. Education, education, education. I sat in the courtroom facing these charges, and I was the defendant. I had a defense attorney on this side and the law and the prosecutor on that side. It's like they were speaking a foreign language. I didn't understand the terminology, the legal language. I didn't understand it. So the jury, imagine a jury hearing this. So I would think that a jury needs to be better educated, better instructed, And that's a great idea, what you just said, Charles, about law students sitting on the jury. I agree.
Our second question here is, why are we not forcing attorneys to do at least 25 hours a year? Maybe just a comment, but
25 hours a year of what? Oh, jury duty?
I'm not sure.
That's what would, to me, that's what it sounds like, that you would have to. But, you know, as you guys are law students, what's the chances that you're going to sit on a jury before you get hired into some law firm or whatever direction you decide to go? So you're not going to get a chance to come out of school as a layman or get pulled into a jury. So it's very unlikely that you would get a chance to experience that piece of our legal system. That's usually to what I call nincompoops and nabobs like me that doesn't understand the legal system, but I'm so quick to make a judgment over somebody over the language that I never even understood what they were even talking about.
Okay, the next question. Charles and Lamont, what can lawyers do to combat the use of junk science in the courtroom and forensic experts who lie?
Oh my God. Go ahead, Charles.
We had a legal system that was very close to that. And that's why they came up with the thing called DNA. So, you know, in my brother's case, they says, well, why don't they test the DNA? I said, there's no physical evidence. So then the next question is, well, how did they get a conviction? Now you're asking the question that I'm asking, and I've been asking for 30 years. How did you get a conviction with no evidence? Well, the jury said guilty. Once they bring that indictment in and they set that jury, they should have to show some evidence. That way, here comes the Innocence Project. We can test any evidence that you may have to prove or not prove that this guy is guilty. But if there's no evidence, how do we test that? So you lied to get me in here. Now I'm here for how many years? 20, 30 years. And then you want me to find that miracle piece of evidence that'll get me out. And I don't know what that miracle piece of evidence is. What could it possibly be other than the truth? So the truth would be a different narrative to what the prosecutors are saying. See, that's the truth, because he doesn't have anything physical to back his story up either. So here we are with two stories. So do we believe his story when he had every opportunity in the world to prove it? He had every opportunity to gather evidence. He had every opportunity to make sure and ensure that this was a good conviction. This was a good indictment. They don't. So now here you are lost in the sauce. Where do I find evidence to prove my innocence when they don't have anything on me? No footprints, fibers, hair. I mean, absolutely nothing. So how did you convict this man? And that's the problem that I'm seeing with Rodney Reed, Melissa Lucio, Julius Jones, and a lot of these other cases run around here, Antonia Panovich, all these cases. Where's the evidence to show me after 25, 30 years that these men are guilty? You don't have it. So here we are, you know, and now you have to look. I'm sorry. Now you have to look at a system that's, you know, overpowering your I guess suspect.
Yeah.
You're being bullied. I mean, if we're talking about a bullying in our country, man, this is the best example in the world of bullying. This is it on an adult level. So we're teaching our children about bullying, and then you come in on an adult level and you go into your court to have a fair trial. And boy, you talking about bullying. This is it, supreme bullying.
Yeah, I agree, Charles. Forensic science in our judicial system has, I'm from my experience, it is trying to catch up with the judicial system, but it's so unfair. Say for instance, I'm gonna use an example. You have two different opinions in the courtroom. One doctor is saying this, and the other doctor is saying that. Okay, now where do a person find the truth at? Okay, say this doctor is saying this opinion, but he's absolutely wrong. And this doctor is saying this, and he's absolutely right. But this doctor who's right, he can't articulate it in a fashion to convince the jury. But this doctor who's absolutely wrong, he's very charismatic in his approach, and his you know he can orientate it real good. So they're
He's a
going to
liar.
believe this guy. He's going to manipulate them to believe him.
It's
So
called a lie.
It's so unfair. It's so unfair.
That lie is powerful, bruh.
I know.
I guess that's why they say thou shalt not bear false witness. Maybe this has something to do with that. You know, it's funny the things that we are taught religiously that we do not practice when it comes to that care of others.
Absolutely.
And this is these lawyers that we're talking to. We have great legal minds out here. We have great legal schools. We've got all of that stuff. So why are we going through this? We all know the answers. We know the answers. We just don't know all the questions, but we know the answers. We have to hold people accountable and do something about it.
Absolutely.
And then we have to look at those people that can do something about it. We all just can't turn our heads as well, you know, on to the next one. How can we keep going on to the next one when we're talking about a system? So that system is going to continue to do what it's going to do until we stop or do something about it. It's about time for somebody to accuse the governor's wife of being a witch. Maybe he'll be afraid that she might get burned and start having some value to life.
Absolutely.
The next question I have here is, why is it that attorneys this day and age are not willing to do everything possible, everything legally possible to get their client off?
Like I mentioned earlier in this conversation, the judge in the courtroom, the judge is an elected official. The judge has to campaign. And politics is in the middle of that. Now, he appoints the attorneys that represent you. So, and these attorneys donate to these campaigns and help this judge get elected. So they're not going to go in this courtroom and give you the absolute best advocacy that they can give you and piss off the judge. The judge is not going to appoint you anymore. He's not going to feed you anymore. So it's ugly. It's politics in the worst sense.
Yeah, you know, we found that out too. How the judges were. Most attorneys, you know, they come in and they see that you're innocent after talking to you maybe a year or two. Things really start to formulate because they're the ones that have to write those motions. So they know whether their client is, you know, looking guilty or if there's a little doubt. They know, but the courts are not accepting anything. The courts are not allowing these motions to come open. So what you're doing is you're burning out your lawyers on 20, 25 years on a case that should have only taken 5.
Resolve Lamont.
Let me check.
Charles,
So,
I
you know,
have.
that.
Oh, sorry. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, I'm fine. Go ahead.
I have a question specifically for you. What was it like collaborating with Kim Kardashian to support your brother's quest for freedom?
Wow. I was not overwhelmed with her. I was that desperate. I really didn't get a chance to realize that this is Kim Kardashian sitting across from me. I didn't have a chance to be in awe. You know, all I saw was an opportunity to save my brother, and all I could see was my brother's life. So, you know, there was nothing that she could do or anyone else could do that could steal that moment for me to advocate for my brother. I'm just glad that she sat down. She was a beautiful person. She's a lot more than what I had even imagined. Hold on a second. You know, you always hear negative things about Kim Kardashian, and I heard so much negative stuff. I'm like, this is all I got. So I followed that up, and then listening to her, I said, this lady grew up around the law. You know, her family grew up around major cases. You know, she grew up in that thing, just like I grew up in the streets. So she understood exactly what I was talking about. You know, everything right there, she was right in tune. And then she told me, I'm going to help you. And that's something you don't hear too often, is when that person tell you, I'm going to help you. So I was in awe. I knew she had the money. I knew she had the following. I knew she had the everything, but I didn't just sit down and let her fight. You know, I tried to stand right there beside her, because I mean, I got Kim Kardashian that some people love, but I also got some people that Kim Kardashian, a lot of people that hate Kim Kardashian, jealous of her and stuff. And I'm like, hey, I don't see anywhere near where her life is any worse than any man that I've ever met. So, you know, for myself, I was willing to follow the women. It's most of the men that's screwing this stuff up anyway. So yeah, I followed the female, and that's what it was like, you know, for me to find a powerful female, as powerful as any man, and follow her, because she had children too, and she was a mother, and she understood what I was talking about, love of a family and a family member. She understood.
I have a question here for Lamont that I'll ask when he comes back online. But if there are any other questions from the audience, now is the time.
It looks like we're right at time, so if we wanna just thank our panelists. Charles, can you hear me? Maybe?
Yes, I can.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Charles, for talking to us and sitting down, not just today, but also before this event, and for advocating for your brother. I think Lamont, I mean, same to Lamont, he's not here to hear it, but
I'll let him know.
you'll let him know. And then I'll just go through the chat real quick in case there's anything. And thank you guys all for coming. I hope this was helpful. And let's go through the chat real quick. Everybody's
You have
just
to remember, the death penalty does not represent us.
yes. Okay, yeah. It's like no more
I
questions.
think we're good. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This was a great event, and thank you, Charles, again.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Charles.
Thank you. Thank you all. God bless.
Should I leave it?
I'm
Well, thank you all very much. They've closed the program from the University of Oregon. We're grateful for the co-sponsorship with everybody that participated, and to all of you who've been watching today. And really, the only question left is, what do we do next? And there's been some links put into the chat here on the Zoom. And if you're watching on the Death Penalty Action Facebook page, where you can find a petition to learn more and sign a petition for Kevin Keith, who is in prison still in Ohio. There's also a GoFundMe for Lamont Hunter and for Charles Keith. Lamont received, no compensation, no apology. He was forced to plead to a lesser offense in order to be able to be released on time served. So he is, at the mercy of being able to get a job and find work and all of that. And he's dealing with some health issues. So therefore, if you're in any way capable, please donate to Lamont via his GoFundMe. And the other links that we put, of course, are to Death Penalty Action. And I'm going to share my screen here before we go, and just make sure you know this is where you go to take action on the upcoming executions. February 28th, we have two. The first one in Idaho for since 2012, as well as on the same day, Ivan Cantu in Texas, with a real questions about his guilt, and then of course others coming along, and that's where you can find those petitions. We're also working on the federal death penalty. We can write to your members of Congress, write to the president. This is some of our other campaigns, including the big issue that's happening across the country right now is executions by gas, suffocation. So there's a petition about that, and there's lots more, including our link here to our YouTube channel and our other social media. And do check out this op-ed from our board chair, Reverend Sharon Risher, whose mother was murdered in the Charleston church shooting, and 2 cousins as well. And the killer of those people is on federal death row, and yet here she is articulating why she opposes the death penalty. And just to close this out, I want to make sure to point out our brief 5-minute mini documentaries called The People versus the Death Penalty, where you can learn more about different perspectives, murder victim family member, former executioner, former death row survivors, Derek Jamison, also from Ohio, and Herman Lindsay from Florida. And then Charles mentioned several times Roderick Reed and Rodney Reed. Roderick is Rodney's brother on Texas death row. Here is a video from the mother of somebody that was executed and a human rights professor. And I'm going to take us out with Charles's video.
Well, I had a brother that was on death row back in 1994. He spent 16 years on death row. Took me a lot of time to figure out how to get him out. I learned a lot about the law. I learned a lot about the death penalty, and getting him off death row in 2010. And it also gave me the skills to come out here and help others that were on death row that needed my help. Death penalty drove me crazy, but it's a crazy goodness because I learned so much about the law. Governor Strickland took him off death row based on an innocent claim. They gave him life without parole, and I've been fighting life without parole for the past 12 years. Without a father, I was obligated. I mean, I got pushed into it. I never even thought about being a father figure because I was always a big brother. And now coming through something like this, I had to be more than a big brother. I had to actually go out and fight like this was my kid. And I lacked knowledge and awareness about the death penalty, so I started studying law books. And I said, I got to read the same books that the lawyers are reading so I can understand the language, the lingo, what's going on, and I have to prepare myself for this long haul of fighting the death penalty. And I tell people I wasn't educated by Ohio State. I was educated by the state of Ohio. There's no rules in this game, and there's no manual that you can go how to fight the death penalty. We don't get that as laymen, so to speak. Lawyers may get it, but we don't. So we have to learn to fight in such a different way.
We're here today with our message, standing in solidarity as a people.
This is what democracy looks like!
This is about my 5th time coming down here, and each time there has been an execution. It's painful each time because you know you're taking of a life, and that person has family.
There's going to be another murder taking place, another legal lynching.
I think about the people, the workers on the other side. I mean, we over here, we're witnesses, we're abolitionists, we're against it, but those on the other side are part of it. In order to sit on a death penalty case, you have to be for the death penalty. So imagine you've got 12 people sitting there that's for the death penalty. You're most surely going to be convicted because the prosecutor is for the death penalty. So he's using you to make sure he gets a conviction. It's like you're going up against a lynch mob.
What do we want? Abolition. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Abolition.
We must abolish the death penalty.
The racism of this nation draws a direct line from slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration to the death penalty. And the death penalty is, simply put, a legalized modern-day version of lynching.
And when you look at the government, see, they're killing in the name of the church. And that's why we've taken our fight to the church. That's why we've asked the pastors to come out. This is wrong. This is thou shalt not kill.
Indeed, the death penalty can only be abolished when the bloodthirsty among us, the church, lose our addiction to death and murder.
We're in a space where we have a Supreme Court that doesn't care. The rails have been greased to the death chamber, and that's what we're seeing now.
We must not allow this wicked system to shed any more blood in our names.
God gave us life. It's sacred. How can you take away anybody's life when you would not want that to happen to you also?
Are you fatigued by any of this?
Yes, I'm beat down. You know, I started this at the age of 34. I'm 64 now, and you know, so many things have happened, but they didn't think it was going to get this far, this deep. They don't think families, poor families such as myself, the Reeds, the Joneses, and those folks, they don't think we're going to come out and fight. How could we? How would we know how?
They all deserve life.
You're trying to save a person's life. It's a lot different than, you know, you see a person in a car or you see him drowning. You got opportunity. I told my brother I would never, you know, abandon him.